Shalom, shalom, shalom. Call Allah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Rakakwadash. And of course, double honors go out to the apostles and elders, a great millstone, alright, who through the Spirit continue to teach us this truth. Alright, this is Naaman of the DC camp, and this comes out of Tennessee. Alright, from the Tennessee Star. And it reads, teaching assistant docks point on conservative students' Black Panther essay. White people cannot experience racism. Now, of course, we don't know if this is just done in order to get a rise out of people. We don't know. All right. At least they're not going to say that, of course. And this is, of course, by Addison Smith. All right. So it says a student at Virginia Tech. All right. Hold on. Having a technical difficulty here. Here we go. A student at Virginia Tech University was told by a teaching assistant that white people cannot experience racism, which is true. All right. Not like we experience it. All right. Someone, not wanting to be around you, that's a different sort of racism. All right. It says when asked why she received a low grade on her final paper. All right. Students in the Nations and Nationalities class at Virginia Tech were asked to complete a paper describing a hate group from the Southern Poverty Law Center. All right. Their list. It says, and analyze how that group justifies its worldview, according to Alyssa Jones, a student in the class. Jones is also the president of the Virginia Tech University Turning Point USA chapter and a campus ambassador for the Leadership Institute. All right. Jones told Campus Reform that she decided to pick the new Black Panther Party with the focus of essay being on separatism. All right. And it says the National Black Panther Party has encouraged violence against whites, Jews, and law enforcement officers. All right, so let me put this disclaimer out there. All right, Great Millstone, in no way, all right, allies itself with the new Black Panther Party. But let's make something clear. Organizations such as that, all right, came about as a response to your hatred, you Edomites, you so-called white people. All right? And eventually, like all those groups, the government infiltrated them, and therefore they became corrupt. All right? But initially, organizations such as these started out in response to your racism, your violence against our people. They were only looking to protect their people. All right? Against or from you. So these things you have not experienced here. Don't even try it. All right? It says, when Jones received back her paper, she was surprised by the grade she received and emailed Sabrina Harris. All right? Harris responded by telling Jones that there were problems with her view of racism when it comes to white people. To begin, we discuss in lecture that racism is a systemic issue rooted in power structures which have historically oppressed non-white peoples. As a result, white people cannot experience racism. While the NBPP, National Black Panther Party, discriminates and has prejudice against white people and Jewish people. And they're all the same. Let's get that straight. All right. These are Edomites. There's no distinction other than you got one that is claiming to be somebody that they're not. All right. And that would be the Jewish, the 48ers, as they're also called. All right. It says it does not engage with racism as a system of oppression and subjugation. So conceptual clarity is key, and that's true. two totally different things. And let's see. Wow. Here is one. Let's go to Wikipedia here. It's on disenfranchisement or disfranchisement after the Reconstruction era. All right, this is for the former slaves. All right. It says in the United States, especially in southern states, was based on a series of laws, new constitutions, and practices in the South that were deliberately used to prevent black citizens from registering to vote. And it says in electoral systems, voter registration is the requirement that a person otherwise eligible to vote must register on electoral roll, which is usually a prerequisite for being entitled or permitted to vote. All right. What also would come about as a result of this, you would be put on juries. They knew what they were doing. All right. So therefore, if a Jake was, and it was often the case, accused of violating a white woman, as was often the case, the jury was all white. And this is one of the reasons. All right. It says these measures were enacted by the former Confederate states that in the turn of the 20th century, efforts were made in Maryland, Kentucky, and Oklahoma. Their actions were designed to thwart the objective of the 15th Amendment, all right, which is put in place under, what president? Was it Ulysses? Was it Ulysses S. Grant or was it Grover Cleveland? Anyway, because they had all kinds of stuff. You would have to do these silly ass, ask these questions at the poll, you know, who is this, you know, and a lot of the poor whites didn't even know that, but they had something for that. So this is all engineered in order to keep us from progressing, point blank period. This is not done to you so-called white people, you Edomites, all right? It says, 1870, I think that was Ulysses S. Grant, all right, because he came after Johnson. Let's see, which prohibits states from depriving voters of their voting rights on the basis of race. Of course, it's still the 15th Amendment. The laws are frequently written in ways to be ostensibly non-racial on paper, all right, but were implemented in ways that purposely suppressed black voters, all right. During the later elections of Reconstruction era beginning in the 1870s, white Democrats, now you got to remember, for those of you that didn't know this, the parties as we know them today, they were reversed back then, all right? So these white Democrats were your largely formed your lynch mobs and things of that nature, all right? Used violence by paramilitary groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, as well as fraud to suppress black Republican voters and turn Republicans out of office. All right, let's skip on down, and you got this racist bastard here. In 1912, the Republican Party was split when Roosevelt ran against the party nominee Taft. Now, interesting thing about Taft, he made all kinds of deals to ensure his future, and he is to date the only president that sat on the Supreme Court after his presidency, even before. He's the only one to do that. He says in the South, by this time, the Republican Party had been hollowed out, by the disenfranchisement of African Americans who were mostly excluded from voting. Democrat Woodrow Wilson was elected as the first Southern president since 1856. Oh boy. He was re-elected in 1916 in a much closer presidential contest. This is the Bama that had a viewing or screening of D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation. All right, and a lot of the, I think, what's his name, W.E.B. Du Bois and a lot of others protested that because they kind of knew what was going to come as a result of that, and sure enough it did. This is responsible for the resurrection of the Ku Klux Klan, because they were all but dead as a group, as a cohesive group, I should say, as an organization. All right, continuing on, it says during his first term, Wilson satisfied the request of Southerners in his cabinet and instituted overt racial segregation throughout federal government workplaces, as well as racial discrimination in hiring. During World War I, American military forces were segregated, with black soldiers poorly trained and equipped. All right, let's get some scriptures. I've gone far enough. This is why we always use this scripture here, because when it comes, and you're going to find this out, for those of you that don't already know, the reason they don't teach prophecies in these seminaries and in these churches is because someone with half a brain will figure out that these prophecies do not point toward those people claiming to be the chosen people. This is Daniel chapter 9, verse 12. It says, "And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil." What was that evil? All right. These Edomites, an ungodly nation, as it says in, I'll get that next, Psalms 43 and 1. "For under the whole heaven has not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem." So let's get one of the curses first. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28. And I think that is 49. Let's see. Surely, yeah, right on point. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 49. It says, "The Most High Yahweh shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle." There's a clue. "As swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand." Who is that talking about, people? Who is that talking about? Who fits that description? As they like to say against us, we fit the description. Who fits that description? Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to the article real quick. Actually, that's it for the article. And as a result of most of these are just what they call token gestures. All right, that's all of this is. Because you're going to find, I don't have the book on hand with me, but there's a book by Dr. Claude Anderson he did several years ago. It's two books, as a matter of fact. The first one is Dirty Little Secrets about African American slavery, its heroes and other troublemakers. All right, and it tells you that the ways that they came at us. You know, one of them was religion, of course. That's on page 6 of that book. How it was used to control, and to this day it's the same thing. It has nothing to do, all right, with our salvation. We were brought over here to serve a punishment, and that was slavery. All this devil did was just change tactics, all right? We were never freed, all right? Just one, because we were never as a people allowed to heal, and this devil knows this, and that's the curses also. So let's go, we're in Deuteronomy 28. Let's go up to 60, I think it's 5. Here it is. Deuteronomy 28 and 65. "And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but the Most High Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart, and failing of eyes, and sorrow of mind." Who does that fit? It doesn't fit the 1948ers, the ones that are pretending to be us. All right, these are the people that brought us, that funded the slave trade. The Arabs built the ships. The nasty Hamites, we would call Africans, are the ones that rounded us up. These are all our enemies. That's Psalms 83rd chapter. All right. So no, you can't go, you haven't gone through what we've gone through as a people, All right, so you cannot, in that sense, suffer racism as we have and continue to do so. All right, so that's where you have to nip that shit in the bud. All right, because when you can be, that's why, I wish Jake didn't get involved with this Asian shit, um, because it's always going to come boomerang back to us because of the way things are set up. All right, but you forget that the L.A. riots back in '91, 92, I think it was '91. What kicked that off? What was the final straw that broke the proverbial camel's back? It was when that Korean store owner shot that Jake girl in the back of the head as she was running away and had the money in her hand. And they gave this bitch probation. All right? So, like I say, on that note, don't expect any sympathy from me. All right? For what's happening to these motherfuckers. Because all these people profit off of us. That's the parable. That's the poor man and the rich man. The poor man being Lazarus, all right, and the rich man being, of course, you got to consider who was ruling back then, all right. That's Israel, and of course the Roman Empire. Who ruled Rome? Who were the Romans? They were Edomites, all right. So you have the same thing going on now, all right. Oh boy, let's see, did I have anything else? Oh yes, let's get racism. All right, of course this is what they're going by here, who wrote that paper. Racism is the belief that groups of humans possess different behavioral traits corresponding to physical appearance and can be divided based on the superiority of one race over another. It may also mean prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against other people because they are of a different ethnicity. Okay, that's part of it. And it goes into modern variants, often used in social perceptions of biological differences between peoples, but it's more wicked here. Here, next paragraph says, in terms of political systems, for example, apartheid, that support the expression of prejudice or aversion in discriminatory practices or laws, racist ideology may include associated social aspects such as nativism, xenophobia, otherness, segregation, hierarchical ranking, and supremacism. All right? So they give you all these fancy, but here's the point right down here. Racism, and this is something you're going to find out from this explanation right here. So if anybody asks you what racism as it applies to Jakes over here, this is where you get them. This is Wikipedia. Scroll on down to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph. And it says racism is a relatively modern concept arising in the European age of imperialism, because you got to remember, they didn't start calling themselves white until 1681. That's fact. All right. It says the subsequent growth of capitalism, and especially the Atlantic slave trade, of which it was a major driving force. It was also a major force behind racial segregation, especially in the United States. See, this American Edomite is an exquisitely evil piece of shit, all right, to the point where his fellow Edomites in Europe don't like him. Nobody likes the American Edomite, all right. Like I said, he is exquisitely evil. It says it was also a major force behind racial segregation, especially in the United States in the 19th and early 20th centuries, and South Africa under apartheid, because what, again, a lot of people don't realize is the Nuremberg trials, apartheid, as it mentions here, when these people were asked where did they get these ideas, guess who they pointed to? America. During the Nuremberg trials, they pointed out we got the ideas for this from how you treated the blacks and the Northern Kingdom, the so-called Latinos, the border states. Facts. The South Africans, the Dutch there, you had the Boer Wars in the 1890s where you had the British fighting the Dutch, and that's actually the first time commando, like special forces, that term was actually used. All right, but that aside, that was for control to see who was going to, control the resources down there, like the diamond mines, etc. All right. So those tactics that were used also in the early 1900s, I believe it was 1906, 1907, what happened in Namibia. All right, and then you had during that time that was still going on with that bastard King Leopold II in Belgium, and what he was doing to Jakes in the Congo, cutting off their arms and shit like that if they didn't meet their quotas. Even children, they were cutting off their arms, their hands. All right, so all these atrocities, no, again, Daniel 9 and 12, you don't even come close, but you will. All right, it says racism has played a role in genocides such as, here they go with this bullshit called the Holocaust, and we know that wasn't the case. It's a lie, and they've conned the world and have gotten rich or richer and continue to bilk the world over that lie. All right, the Armenian genocide that happened in the early 20s, that was Turkey, and the genocide of the Serbs, all right, as well as colonial projects including the European colonization of the Americas, Africa, and Asia, all right. So, a whole different, and of course this whole system was set up, capitalism as we know it. You got to remember the first objects for trade on Wall Street were what? Us, all right. So again, articles like this, whether they're just put here to get under your skin or not, hey, you got to I had to respond to this. All right, so once again, this is from the Tennessee Star, teaching assistant Doc's point on conservative students' Black Panther essay, white people cannot experience racism. All right, so I want to see, was it somewhere? Here we go, because you have these idiots that make these comments. Joe Burton says, Tim, I'm white and not fragile. I never knew white privilege. Well, that's your problem. This is your kingdom. If, if you had it rough, you need to talk to your own people there. The cracker, most white people have been victims of racism, really. I certainly have been. The only way to stop racism is to, whatever. Rick Mann says, how can anyone but black not experience racism? That's racist within itself. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, you can read this for yourself. Let's see. I got to hit the more comments because someone got in that ass. Here it is. Violets and candy. I'm taking it, I'm hoping this is a female. It says, so goddamn typical. Anytime a non-white person either exposes white racism or speaks of white privilege, something white people have always been in denial about, along comes none other than a white person looking to twist facts and manipulate the truth. Please, she said nothing but the absolute truth. The reality is that white people are the most privileged race of people in America. You gotta go a bit further than that. The world, because the world was given into the hands of the wicked, and the wicked, according to Malachi 1, verses 1 through 4, specifically 4, the wicked or the nation of Edom, so-called white people of the day. Fact. They are because they made it that way. They are the only race of people who have not had to endure the same amount of societal hardships and adversity that other races of people have experienced. So no, white people can't experience racism. Right to the point. You'll have some old Negro that'll jump up and try to say, well, you gotta pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. to someone that doesn't have any fucking boots. All right, and that's why 2/3 of our people got to go. All right, because they're always gonna support this devil. You got a lot of Sambos out there. All right, so again, oh boy, here we are. So with that, I'm gonna end it there. That's why we always say abide the ball. You know, destruction to Babylon. Destroy this place. This is nothing but the city of confusion, and it is being broken down. Let's close on that. Let's go to Isaiah 24. This is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 10. It says, "The city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up, that no man may come in." 11. "There is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone." And indeed, the mirth is gone, and even more is gone. There's no happy times. I mean, they're trying to manufacture it, but what's gone is gone. It ain't never going to be so-called normal again. This shit is over. Over. All right, you got to be in that mindset. If you're in your right mind, fuck this shit. All right, you got to distance yourself from these idiots out here calling for shit to go back to quote-unquote normal. All right. So with that, call hello Yahweh, Ba'al Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'al Shem Rakakwadash, Shalom.